The time I kicked just no mother-in-law out of the delivery room and told her she doesn't get to name my baby. This is the story of how my daughters were named, and also the first time I talked back to my in-laws. Some of my post history should give a little context. It's all ancient stuff now, of course, but I still relish this very small victory against my mother-in-law in a time when I was still trying to win her approval and was letting her walk all over me. This was at a time when our marriage was still very new. We got married, eloped. The in-laws were a bit prickly about it, kind of understandable, but there's more to that story and it's not great, and were unexpectedly pregnant within a year. When we told the mother-in-law, she was so upset, she stormed out of the room. So you can see, that's the kind of status I had with her at that point in time. Because of course it was my fault for getting pregnant, while her precious son was working hard to finish his degree. My carelessness alone. I imagine others have had similar experiences getting blamed for unplanned kids. At least I hope others can relate. The mental gymnastics this woman ended up with in an effort to blame absolutely everything on me is kind of astounding, and there's more stories there, of course. After the pregnancy announcement tantrum, we sort of made nice. She made up fake apologies, blah blah, you took me by surprise, blah blah, you're so young, we're just worried, etc etc. We continue to chat, awkwardly, super tense, walking on eggshells here. I thought if I was polite and demure and sweet enough, she would have to like me eventually. How naive I was. We began to talk about names. We opted not to find out the sex, so we had both boys and girls names in mind. We had 2 girls names we liked, and when we told her she was upset. What? Insert great grandma's name isn't going to be the first name, or even the primary middle name? So disrespectful. How could you do this to her? She'll be heartbroken if you don't name your daughter after her. You're breaking with tradition. Never mind any of my family's traditions. For that woman, my kids weren't half Asian whatsoever. No, for her they were white. So disrespectful. Now my husband's grandmother, mother of the just not mother-in-law, was a lovely person. I liked her, and she liked me, and my husband was the apple of her eye. She had a very classic name and it's been passed down as a middle or first name in my husband's family. Everyone has it. My just no mother-in-law, one of her daughters, her daughter, 2 of my husband's cousins, and others have different variations of it as a first name. Everyone, you get the idea. Unfortunately, I don't like it. I find it really impractical. Too many varieties in spelling and too common. Oh well. I didn't want to make a fuss. I did like the woman after all, and tbh, I know how stupid this sounds, but I was so sure that it was going to be a boy and the name thing would not be an issue. Of course it turned out to be a girl. Absolutely no regrets on that. She guilted us and I caved. Basically it was blackmail. If you expect the family to help at all, we didn't. The least you can do is name her for the family. So we did. I wasn't happy, but I didn't want to be picky, and great grandma is a lovely person, so that became our first daughter's middle name. And for the record, great grandma didn't care whatsoever. She was actually disappointed that we didn't choose a name from my country. Frankly, I have no idea how this lovely woman spawned my mother-in-law. We were then also guilted into a Roman Catholic baptism. I'm Protestant, but again, I was trying desperately to get along, and that added to my internal resentment and isolation. After my daughter's birth I had severe postpartum depression. It was awful. My parents were in my home country. I had no family. My relationship with the in-laws was super strained, and I was quite young. I admit I was unprepared. It was a really hard time. Somehow I pulled through. Thank God for friends. I would not have gotten through it without my best friend. I really lucked out in that. Through my husband's grad program, I met one of his fellow classmates who was also married to a woman who is the same nationality as me. We became very close. She was a little older than me and actually got pregnant right around the time I gave birth. Our kids became close friends. I still consider this woman my best friend, even though we haven't lived on the same continent in decades. I'm visiting her later this year. When I got pregnant with my second and youngest, I was in a much better place mentally. My relationship with the in-laws had also improved somewhat because they all fell under the charm of my older daughter, who was an adorable active little baby and loved playing. So because I had produced a beautiful first grandchild, whose Asian heritage they completely ignored, but there's more stories on that for another time, I was slightly redeemed. Shockingly, my mother-in-law didn't even directly criticize my parenting that first year, at least not to my face. Well, it was time for names again. This time I was certain. I wanted a name in my native language and I'd already decided it was a variant of my best friend's name, the one who'd been my rock and lifeline during some of my darkest moments. Come hell or high water, no one was going to take that from me. My husband was on board. During delivery, it turned out her umbilical cord was wrapped around her neck and it was too late to do a C-section, so they literally had to yank her out. It was really stressful and scary. She didn't cry, so she was taken to the NICU. Mothers who have experienced this, I'm sure you can relate to this feeling of both panic and jump in energy. All my focus went on my baby. My brain was basically in I will protect my baby at all costs or die trying mode. The moment she was released from the NICU, I, briefly, had a spine because I was feeling so protective of my daughter. I let my husband hold her, but I told everyone else they would have to wait. My in-laws came by because they were babysitting our older daughter, but I told them they would have to come back tomorrow because I wasn't ready to have anyone hold my newborn, because I honestly felt a little traumatized by the birth and needed to bond with her after not getting to hold her for several hours afterwards. I know that nuptial cords are actually common, but maybe some people can relate feeling protective like this. When my older daughter hopped on the hospital bed to cuddle with me, my mother-in-law actually thought she'd use my diverted attention and try to pick up my newborn daughter. I stopped what I was doing immediately and I reiterated that she would have to leave and come back tomorrow because I needed to bond with my new baby, who also needed to recover and was sleeping peacefully. I must have looked fierce and powerful because they actually retreated a bit and agreed. They then asked what the name would be, and I told them. Mother-in-law, no family names. Not insert great-grandma's name. It's another girl, after all. I thought for sure you would make it up to us and give younger daughter great-grandma's name as a first name. Make it up to them. The gall of this woman. Seriously. Me, still fierce. These are family names. My family this time. Since they're my kids. Got a problem with that? My in-laws actually shrank back a little, and for the first time I thought I heard some respect in mother-in-law's voice. She asked for the meaning. I told her how to pronounce it, and showed her the correct spelling in my language. I was so proud of myself. I thought I was beginning a new chapter. Oh, how very wrong I was. I regret caving in and naming my first daughter as the in-laws badgered me too, but I'm proud of myself for naming my second daughter and kicking them out of the delivery room. In her words, "You gave zero fucks that day, Mom. I love it." I feel your pain about wanting to protect your baby. When my daughter was born I was overdrugged, had a messed up epidural, and had to get an emergency C-section. After which I passed out for 4 hours because they overdrugged me. That hospital was horrible. So when I wake up, my mom is there holding my daughter next to me on the bed. Husband was deployed, so mom was my rock. I was half out of it, so I wasn't able to hold her yet. Mill decides she's going to take my daughter and leaves the room with her. WTH. All I wanted to do was run out and snatch her away. But C-section and still recovering from overdose, I didn't get time to bond with her at all. Then later I find out Mill has taken pictures and posted on FB about my baby being born before me. Also, I only wanted one post from me about her being born. She didn't care. Then while I was passed out and recovering from the traumatic birth, Mil gave my baby formula after I said I was strictly breastfeeding. Of course, when DH found out, she paid to have professional newborn pics done as a sorry, which were held over my head for a long time. Sigh, I feel your pain, girlfriend. Thanks for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe for more videos. See you all later.